Coming up on the show, one of the world's strongest men, professional bodybuilder, professional wrestler, and I think a pretty hell of a nice guy. Jon Andersen coming up, and apparently you don't gotta spend all these hours in the gym working out. Wish somebody would have told me that. Today, live in the lab with Keith Bilous.
Hi, I'm Keith Bilous, and this is Live in the Lab. All right. A little bit of weirdness in front of the camera there for anybody who's watching. So I'm like, hey, where's the button? Where's the button? I can't get it going. How did you go viral on TikTok? You were on America's Got Talent. How much do you get paid to be on AGT? Oh, you didn't get paid. Keith and Steve here in Live in the Lab.
You're a great interviewer. I love it.
48 miles, 48 hours. And not just once. You ain't seen nothing yet. I hit 50 last time, and I'm like, yeah, things are a little different than they were 10 years ago. So trust me, things are to keep. You have no time for the BS that much of society seems to put on the table. Why is that? Like, what you're talking about is real right now. There's just no bullshit here, but it's just real. We brought you in with some Marley. I said, Joseph, let's talk music for a second. You said, well, Keith, oldies, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I've never talked to a sir before. Why are you a sir? In many ways, we're the same story. I came from nothing. You came from nothing. I think the old saying goes that if you want a trophy, you climb Everest. If you want respect, you climb K2. I've built an line myself, and it's pretty fascinating when you can have a conversation with yourself with your own knowledge. Have you done that before? Why are we rushing to make these tools if all they're going to do is hurt humanity? Does the world need an Oppenheimer moment with AI?
What a fun show.
Going on, nation? What'd you think of the new opener? I hope you liked it as much as I did. We worked on that for a long time. And then the guy who I'm featuring's late. So I'm sorry that I had to make you wait, but it was well worth it, wasn't it? What's going on, everyone? Happy Easter Monday. Listen, I'm all about dating this show. It's just what I do here in the lab. We show up every single day. Live in the lab with Keith Bilous, Monday to Monday, noon Central, 1 o'clock Eastern. Where John's at is 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time. I'm suspecting John got his lift in this morning already. I did. I'm like, I got to get my shit done. I got to face a guy who's huge. I got a lot of questions for John. You know, I grew up I'm the same age as John. As a matter of fact, I think he might be chasing me. I'm a March baby. John's a January baby. Well, who's chasing who here? Anyways, Jon Andersen's coming up internationally. One of the strongest guys in the world. True story. I think I might arm wrestle him. Yeah, I'm going to fly over to California and do an arm wrestle. Pull the old Sylvester Stallone. Remember that show? What was that movie again? Nation, you got to tell me. It's just falling off my skull right now. You know, where he was just doing the old arm wrestling folks. So John, he's a bodybuilder. I'm thinking, wait till you see the guy. I'm suspecting he might have picked up a few weights in his life. I'm suspecting John likes to pick heavy things up and put them down. I have that feeling. I have the feeling he's one of those guys who are like, you know what? There's something heavy over there. He's like, I got to go pick it up. Holy fuck, see that car? I'm going to go pick the car up. John's like, there's an airplane. I'm going to go pick the airplane up. Then he goes and chows a bunch of food and gets on stage, ripped up, and wins the competition. I'm suspecting that's what Jon Andersen is. Then I see the video on the weekend. You guys, do I turn the music up for this part or do I turn the music down? So apparently John says you don't got to spend hours and hours in the gym getting jacked and all looking like the dude. I'm going, wait a minute. I'm on my Peloton bike left and right here, center, forward, backward, everywhere, go upwards, backwards, push and weight, looking at my Apple Watch, making sure I'm getting all my shit done every single time I watch a video from John in 4 minutes to convince I'm doing the wrong things. Yeah. So I suspect we are going to learn today from Jon Andersen that we're all doing the wrong things. And you know what? The guy's not a spring chicken. Nope. Like I said, he's been around as long as I've been. We're ancient. So all you 20-year-old, 30-year-old fans, business athlete nation, because I know your nation. I know you are. You're all thinking, hey, I want to be there. Well, listen, today's a show you want to be a part. You know, speaking of today's a show you want to be a part, John doesn't know this. He has no idea what I'm going to say next. And maybe he can help because I want to help him. So on Friday, on Audacious Goal Fridays, made a huge announcement because you know what we do here in the lab? We help people achieve their biggest goals, the biggest goals they want to achieve in their life. I've achieved a few, just a few. My biggest goal right now that I'm not going to have any regret over is I'm on the journey to become the world's biggest talk show host. That's right, Jon Andersen. It's true. I know you and I grew up with Letterman, Leno, King, O'Brien, Colbert, Stewart, Rogan, Stern. Now there's Bilous. Now there is me. Yep, true story. And you know what? To those of you that are doubters, doubt all you want. You have no place on the train if you want to doubt. But I get a sense Anderson's digging it. I think Jon's like, fuck, I dig this guy. I'll get on his train because here's what I'm going to do for Jon. I love to celebrate creators. I love to take people and the work that they're doing that are helping others like Jon Andersen, like Catherine McCord. Like this morning on my morning show with Sean Nason, I like to take their stories and celebrate them. Oh, I get so much joy out of that. So if I can do that, and if I can hitch a ride as the conduit of conversation, because you just can't have a conversation by yourself. Tried that once, didn't work. It was like talking to myself. It was like, hey, self, yeah. I had a conversation with myself moments before I walked into the labs. I go, holy fuck, what am I going to say today? And then I sit down, put the music on, and all of a sudden just shit comes out. It's a true story. I feel like Jay-Z, just walking up to the mic and spitting out the raps. Told my kids this weekend, kids, I'm not going to embarrass you. Nope, Jon's a father of 3 kids. I'm sure he has this conversation with his kids all the time. Kids, they're like, yes, dad, I'm not going to embarrass you. No, I'm not going to get on stage in my skivvies. Nope, I'm sure he's had that conversation many times. Oh, kids, we love them. We love them. We love them. All right. So enough of the monologue. 2 quick things. I just sometimes go off. Maybe I get distracted. I don't know. I get on a tangent. The music drives the flow. But a couple things. This Friday, Audacious Goal Friday. If you got a big goal, come join me and Nicole in the morning. Jon, if you know anybody has a big goal and they're like, hey, you guys need an accountability partner besides myself, Jon Andersen, go join Keith and Nicole in the morning. It's a traditional morning show. We wake up with everybody, get their ass out of bed. Think of that. If you're like, I don't want to get out of bed, go turn on Keith and Nicole. We'll get you going. That accountability kind of clock conversation, positive conversation that moves you forward. We go every single morning, Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. Pacific time. So Jon, just on time to go to the gym, right? So if anybody or anybody listening out there, Business Athlete Nation, has an audacious goal, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I can achieve it. Well, 2 weeks ago, Nicole announced hers. She's running an ultra marathon. Never done it before. She's running it in June. And then last week, I announced my audacious goal, which is become the world's biggest talk show host on the world's biggest talk show on YouTube and LinkedIn and Instagram. That works too. We're streaming there right now, by the way. So that's Audacious Goal Friday coming up. So I talked about the accountability part. I talked about the audacious goal, and I think I'm done with all of that. So I think it's time to bring our guest in. He's been so patiently waiting, although I did patiently wait for him. So it's kind of even. Yeah, it's kind of even. Anyways, why don't we just turn our attention over there? We'll turn the music down. And then what we're going to do, we're going to turn our attention down and we're going to go like this. Boom. What's shaking, Jon Andersen?
What is going down, my brother? Forgive me for being late. My tech guy was gone for all the holiday weekend and today, hence me not answering about streaming. I mean, I'm really good at a lot of shit, but let me tell you, technology is not in my bag. So I was scrambling to get here on time by myself. Forgive me. But you know what? I'm digging your hat.
Oh, awesome, man. Thank you very much. So so it's funny. I didn't know you. I went to Easter dinner yesterday. My brother had the same hat on. I'm saying it must be a kind of an age thing, Jon. I think it's what it is.
Well, you know, it's I got one of these. I figured you'd be happier with the hat on rather than see the shine coming off my head from the studio lights. So I figured that's better,
Dude, I can relate. I got parking lot over my forehead too. I think as we get older, we put the hat on to cover the parking lot. I always tell my professional hockey team, if you guys need extra parking, just call Uncle Keith over here. He'll bring his old forehead. You guys can park the cars on there. We're off to the races.
There we go.
So thanks for joining me here in the lab. I was excited about today. I followed the story. Geez, the music's still playing in my ears. I got to just stop the music down here. Boom, there we go. No, stop. There we go. Okay. So read your story, and truthfully, frankly, a guy like yourself is somebody who I grew up wanting to be, right? We're the same age. I'm like, oh, I'm a bodybuilder. So as I told my kids, because my kids just say, yeah, like Schwarzenegger, right? Schwarzenegger, Stallone, that era, right? The bodybuilding era, right? The kind of physique that you have. And that's a compliment, right? Because it's certain physiques, in my point of view, represent an era. And when I came across your profile, I was like, I got to meet Jon Andersen. So truthfully, you're messaging with me and you asked me the question, like, so Keith, how big's your audience? And I'm like, well, when mom and dad join, it's 3 because at least my wife is here and then mom and dad are here, which is awesome. So I'm really grateful that you decided to join me today in the lab and my mom and dad and my wife listening to our conversation today.
Absolutely, bro. I figure if I can inspire one person, even if it was your mom or dad, I did my job.
And I knew that you were coming in today after my big audacious goal announcement on Friday, where I'm on this journey to become the world's biggest talk show host on LinkedIn and YouTube. And having you as part of this, I'm thinking this is the right guy to, collaborate with as I go on my journey. because you've
There we
accomplished some substantial things in your life.
Well, brother, the best part about my story is as a youngster, I was looking back. I mean, all of what I had when I was a kid was their blessings. At the time, it didn't seem that way. I had a whopping learning disability. I was in the class for slow kids. But here's the thing. I was just dumb enough to believe I could do it. And if you can believe, you can achieve. So me being a little dense, me being a little slow was the biggest blessing I could have ever asked for. And it set me on my, once I went on my way and I believed, the world is a very different place when you believe you can do so. That's the biggest problem most people have is they listen to, unfortunately, sometimes their own parents or friends or family that say that, no, you can't do that. You got to do this. And we get programmed with all these self-doubting, beliefs. When in actuality, we need to be coached into believing that we can do whatever we want. And then for the most part, all you got to do is go get it. I mean, going like Arnold Schwarzenegger says, first, you got to have a vision. Once you have a vision, then you got to go get it. But once you have your vision, once you know where you're going, the whole drill gets much easier at that point.
Yeah. It's the power of self-belief is phenomenal to me sometimes, John, because somebody would have looked at you in your lifetime and looked at you like, you are full of shit, you're full of shit. Like, what's this guy think he's going to do? Yet deep down, there's this belief that nobody can see, nobody can feel, nobody can understand. How do you describe that to people? Because I struggle with that as I'm on my journey now, of becoming the world's biggest talk show host. Like there's no doubt. Just like when you were doing your thing, there's no doubt in your mind, is there? You're just doing it.
Well, you figure if you break it down to the most simple, I mean, I'm when I look at things from a simple standpoint, it becomes very easy for me to register and understand and continue. And if you break it down like this, in whatever we're doing, we're going to fail it, but failure is a part of the process. Call failure falling down, right?
Yes.
So as long as you've got the nuts, get up one more time, then you fell down. You're going to basically get to your goal. You're going to get to your dream. And when you realize, okay, I fell again today, get up before the day's over and get ready to go again tomorrow. And it just becomes much more simple. Being overwhelmed and being, having people tell you that you can't, it's much easier to believe that you can when you got back up and you stay on the ground and you cry like excuse my language. I'm not sure what our language barriers are here. But
no language barriers. We're in the gym, man. And I grew up in the gym like you. So fuck bring it on.
Well, okay. Well, you lay on the ground like a little bitch. It's very easy to believe people when they tell you can't do it. But when you've got yourself back up, you dusted yourself off and you're ready to go again, it's very easy to tell those people to fuck.
It's interesting your approach, John, because what you're telling somebody, and I had the same conversation with my son last week while his team was trying to win a playoff hockey series against a better team. I said, Carter, you guys are going to get your ass kicked in a few periods. Some periods you're going to lose, some games you're going to lose, like setting them up for the inevitable. It was programmed thinking about how they were going to respond when the inevitable happened. Like, don't think that shit's not going to happen to you, man, because it's going to.
100%. 100%. You need to be prepared to get your ass kicked because when you get your ass kicked and you can stand back up, it comes down to you're back on your feet. At some point, you're going to be at the finish line. At some point, you're going to be at your goal. At some point, you're going to be at your dream. And what people tend to not understand is, like the things that I've done in my life, and I've had a great life. I mean, I look back and I think, holy shit, as a kid, I was dreaming about one of the three things that but when you just break it down to the most simple position possible, and you realize that, okay, I don't need to worry about this goal that might take years to get to. I need to worry about the handful of things that I need to do today to make sure that I win today so that I can continue on tomorrow. When you start stacking up these little wins, days turns to weeks, weeks turns to months. Once you start stacking up months, this is where most people go, holy shit, look what I'm doing. Now, the next fleet of successful people start stacking up years. And it's like, whoa, now they're elite. And then when you learn to stack up decades, now you're like kind of an anomaly. And so the problem is most people have a hard time actually getting to stack up. They can stack up a few days, But then stacking weeks is a big problem because most people will falter in the week, and it's not a problem to fall. Question is, do you stop because you faltered, or do you get back up and realize, okay, today my win was getting back up, not making a step forward? And there's plenty of days like that, but it's okay. The question is, do you have the balls to get up one more time than you fell down? And that's an every day of your life question.
Bodybuilding to me has so many of the same attributes as driving a successful business, building a successful business, because the consistency and discipline you have to put in every single day,
Brother, it's the same formula.
It's the same thing.
I mean, in
recovery, you got to.
we're talking about bodybuilding, but I mean, my first career, I was a pro strong. I was traveled. Then from there, I went and wrestled in Japan, and then I became a pro bodybuilder. So three different venues that I did for basically each one of those was about 7 years, and so that's over 2 decades of 3 different internationally recognized positions that I took. And it was all because my formula was the same. Now, granted, the goals that I had on a daily basis, they changed a little bit. For when I was in my strength career, those goals were a little bit different than when I was wrestling. And when I say goals are the things I had to achieve, my daily rhythm changed. But all I did was change my daily rhythm. The outcome will take care of itself. So people get all bent out of shape and overwhelmed with planning. Don't plan for something 2 months away. Plan for today. Plan for tomorrow. When you understand that your power is what you do today and will you do it every day, it becomes real simple. And most people don't think like that.
John, when you're getting your ass kicked as a young and up and comer and people weren't believing in you, when did the light go on for you when you recognized that you were something special and that you were going to be on your way to competing and winning in strongman competitions? Let's go down that path first, because you talked strongman, then you talked bodybuilding. No, then you talked wrestling, then you talked bodybuilding. So let's start with strongman. When and why did the light go on? And you're like, holy fuck, I'm good at this and I'm going to go and win this.
Well, I think it's kind of twofold. That light will go on, right? But that light is accompanied by that voice in your head, which is very symbolic of everybody that's talking shit about you all around you, telling you can't do it. So one thing you got to understand is your self-belief also has to have some sort of a defense or some sort of like a Jedi mind trick, so to speak, with taking all of those question marks, the doubt and all the stuff that's coming in and using that to your benefit. Don't let it when people let that stuff get in their way, that's a big problem. So the lights kind of turned on for me when I just realized that I was better at making progress than the people around me because I had discovered what I needed to do on a daily basis. And I realized that all I had to do was be this really, really repetitive machine and things were going to fall in place, which goes back to, like I said, the early days. I've got, when I was in school, they didn't have all the letters, they just said, oh, the kid's slow. We got to move him down, put him in a different classroom. Right. But now if I was in today's, I would be, all these different OCD, ADD, all this crazy shit. I mean, I still have a whopping case of dyslexia that I manage, but I have all of the fact that it would be self-diagnosed OCD, where, you just want to do shit over and over. And I know people that have it that don't use it to their favor. And that's the difference. These disabilities or these challenges, I just turned them and made them. They all became my best friends, because repeating something over and over, that feels good to somebody that has OCD. Well, guess what? Reaching big goals when it comes to this shit, especially when lifting weights is involved, that's all we do is repeat shit. and so when you find the love in repeating something over and over and over, that came very easy to me. And, so when it comes down to it, the light bulb went off when I realized that, holy shit, the shit that I was told was going to hold me back is actually the shit that's going to get me there. And that's when I was like, you know what? Everybody that's been telling me I can't, they don't get it, because all the shit that's landed in front of me that I was told was supposed to hold me back, these have been my springboard. So at that point, I was like, bring it on. Tell me I can't. Tell me all the reasons why I can't, because those are the reasons why I can't. And then I think probably one of the biggest elements that helped me in terms of, to answer your question, When I learned to literally address, pursue, and literally use failure to my advantage, like it was it was like Pandora's box opened up. And here's how I did it. And it's pretty crazy because anybody that's lifted weights before, usually when I explain this to them, they go, man, it turns something around their head. So picture this, 700 pounds on a squat bar. It's a lot of weight, right? Most people, they got 3-4 people around them. They're inside of a rack. If they're a monolift, they're straps. Well, I flipped it around. So I would work my way up to 700 pounds. I would put the bar on the outside of the rack. I would tell my spotters to get the fuck out of the way because I didn't want anybody to touch me. And I would walk that son of a bitch out. And I had absolutely zero intention of putting it. I knew I was going to squat that until I failed. The only dicey part was getting out of the way when I couldn't finish and that weight was coming down. I didn't know if I was going forward or backward. I just knew I had to get out from under that bar.
Yeah.
But when you address something like that's scary, like, okay, this is on me. If I'm not on my shit, this is going to really hurt me. And I decided I'm not putting it away. I'm going to go until I fail, and I'm going to go deep into my failure because I'm going to go through all this pain, all this anguish and anxiety. I want one more rep than I did 2 weeks ago. I used to do this every other week because you're so brutal, you couldn't do it. So when I learned to literally not only face, but pursue fail, like, okay, I know I'm failing on this, but I need one more. That changed everything because now you realize that the gains and the forward progression that you get from chasing failure is so much bigger, it's so much more powerful, it's so much more beneficial to your process than just kind of accepting that that's going to be a part of the problem. And once I did that, everything changed. Pursue failure. Failure is your friend. Failure is testing. Failure is that thing that tells you that you're making progress. If I say all the time, fail fast. Don't wait to fail. If you're not failing, you're not getting better. And if you're afraid to fail, you got to figure out a way to overcome that fear because that fear is standing between you and whatever it is you want.
I know it's difficult teaching old dog new tricks like you and I and you. I had a guest come through the lab, John, who taught me something about failure a few weeks ago, and he suggested I reframe failure in the words of feedback. And I really embrace that word because I chase it now. Right?
For sure.
I always have chased failure because, like yourself, it's like, well, that's when really, failure is just the first step in getting it done tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at success, you cannot be successful without failure. The two go hand in hand.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. I love talking to guys like you, John, because, I listen to your journey and I've said this to other guests before. Like your success, in air quotes, because we all define it differently, was and is inevitable because you discovered the magic of showing up and putting the work in every single day. And the days that you failed, you got back up and went the next day. And I guarantee guys like you, because I took some solace in this yesterday, frankly. I was working my ass off. It was Easter weekend. I worked my ass off all weekend. Why? Because I got a startup right now. I'm building something special and I'm excited about it. A lot of people weren't working this weekend. And there were a lot of times you were in the gym in your career and you looked around yourself and you're like, yeah, motherfuckers, you're all at home right now. I'm here pumping. It's powering, isn't it?
Here's the thing. When you really, really want to do something, holidays, Christmas, birth, all this shit does is fuck up your daily rhythm. So I didn't want that stuff because my daily rhythm my goal was to wake up and execute my daily rhythm. Well, fuck, if I got to do some sort of an event in the middle of that daily rhythm, it's going to make my day more challenging to get what I need out of it.
Yeah.
So I mean, granted, of course, I learned to do it all. I learned to manage the two together. But I'll tell you, one of the biggest things that people need to learn to say is no.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when it came down to it, I never looked around. I didn't give a shit who was in the gym or who wasn't. I just knew that I was there to get my job done. It wasn't just the gym. It's the kitchen. It's going to bed. I mean, keep in mind, I've been going to bed at 8:00 almost my whole life, except for when I started wrestling. I wasn't going out to the ring till 10:30. But ultimately, I've been committed to my sleep. I've been committed to nutrition. I've been committed to my training. I've been committed to my businesses, I should say, the whole time. And when you learn to basically be accountable to what you need to do, it actually becomes pretty damn easy, except for when shit like birthdays or holidays get in the way.
Isn't it funny, John, that when people will look at you they're gonna have judgment. You're an imposing figure, you're a big guy, and they're gonna have some kind of, perhaps dramatic judgment. When in reality, you're the most boring guy around, right? You're like, I go to bed at 8 o'clock. I eat the same fucking food every single day. I'm really a boring human being. Yet when you look at the book, there's this intimidating stature, and you're like, no, I'm actually in bed right now. It's true, isn't it?
No, I mean, when it comes down to it is you're gonna have one or the next. You don't really find people, and I'm not just about sports. I'm talking about business. I'm talking about high performers in whatever venue they're in. There's a set of rules that they play by, and usually those set of rules are very different than what society. And so, for the most part, most people have never experienced firsthand the lifestyle of a high performer. They're all very similar, and all the timelines are different for their life, but there are some things that happen in those days of high performing people that are not negotiable. And society, they're basically, their lifestyle, how they live their life is completely negotiable. That's why they wonder why they're still driving to fucking sitting in traffic going to a job they don't want to go to. Well, it's because you've allowed too many things that you need to be in your life. You've allowed those to be negotiated out. Oh, I'm going to stay up to watch this. Oh, I'm going to start my diet tomorrow. Oh, I'm going to do this. No, it's you make a decision and you stick to it. Now, I understand that's really difficult for many people. So the caveat is you need to find your purpose, because if you find your purpose, that thing that you want to do, that thing that's in your chest, then it becomes very easy to learn to say no to the people that are trying to distract you from it. And it becomes very easy to make a decision and carry out your tasks because you're working from a place of inside. You're not showing up to work because you got to get a paycheck.
Yeah. John, did your purpose change as you went from strongman to wrestler to bodybuilder? And then the second part to that question, John, was, did you have an accountability partner or associate along the way? Like somebody who the light went on early in your life, who maybe took you under their wing, was a mentor, or somebody that, helped you see the light? And was that part of your purpose, or would you disassociate the two?
No, brother, that's a great question. So, I was lucky in the regards that, again, I was a little bit of a dunce in the beginning. So I was dumb enough to believe. And when I got this, it was like the first time, and it's going to sound, a little weird, but it's the truth. Because I was a slow learner, all the disabilities and shit with dyslexia, my mom, we allowed no TV. There was not a TV in the house because she knew that wasn't going to help. So I rarely saw television. Well, the first time I saw Conan the Barbarian, which was Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'd never seen a big, I was a country boy. We'd never seen something like that. I was just like, something in my chest just went bam. And it was something changed inside me.
Me too.
And then I knew at that point, I had no idea what the hell I was going to do, but I knew I was supposed to be this big, strong guy. No idea what I was going to do with it. I didn't even really care. As far at that point in my life, hell, I would have been, if you said we be as big as you want and you live in your car, I would have gladly. But ultimately in those days, there was no internet. We're talking, goddamn, I'm 52 years old. There was no way to gather information. So, but again, this was another one of my blessings, because if I was in today's times, I would have had too many resources and too many people telling me the wrong shit. I had to figure it out myself. And because I figured it out myself, I discovered a methodology that is far more efficient and far more effective than what most people are doing when it comes to training and diet especially. And so because I discovered my own variation of how it works, that's part of why I was able to do so much.
It's that discovery of what works for you,
yes,
where the magic happens, right? Because so many people try to find so many different things. And I know I was one of them, John, until I met somebody who, I found something that worked for me, and then I stuck with it. You too.
Well,
right?
And the crazy part about it is it took me, it took me years and years and years. Goodness, it took me a couple of decades to figure it out. Not quite a couple of decades, but damn near. Then once I figured it out and I really understood how to make it work for myself, I started trying to figure this out when I was a kid. Then the best part about it is, okay, so I figured out the system that works really well, that serves my purpose, and I'm moving full speed ahead. And as I learn to do it to myself really well, people around me, they're looking at me going, what the hell did you do? And I'm like, this is what I did. And it worked really good. they're like, well, show me how to do it. So I showed a few people how to do it. And through me showing other people and it working so much better than all of the other methodologies out there, literally it's turned itself into a thriving 7-figure. So again, it's all purpose driven. I would have never had, if I hadn't had this and I hadn't been set on my path to figure out to get to my goal any way, shape, or form needed, then I wouldn't have had, the discoveries that I've had, which would have parlayed into my success with athletics or business. Because, in terms of what I teach in my business, I teach people how to eat in a way that's going to help them. And I also teach them how to live in a way that's going to help them. These two put together, the training is the smallest piece of the equation. Shit. Sometimes people, I don't even give a damn what you do for training. Just follow this daily rhythm, eat this way, and make sure that you exercise at least 45 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be every day. You can do it 45 minutes 3 times a week. And we're going to, most people are putting way too much effort into their training and they think that that's where they're going to make their gains, but all they're doing is slowing themselves.
John, what would you say to somebody who would say, John, you're talking bro science. You're talking stuff that is bro science. There's nothing behind it. How would you don't need to eat cauliflower, and I'm making some assumptions here because I haven't spoken.
Sure.
You don't need to eat cauliflower and chicken all the time, or broccoli and chicken. You don't need to starve yourself. You don't need to do 1,000 hours of cardio every single week. So, help me and Business Athlete Nation dismiss bro science for some of the things you're teaching your customers.
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, my discovery was a bro science. I discovered this shit by myself. The difference is that I discovered a method that worked for me, and it was proven. I think when you talk bro science, you're talking about all the bros that are happy to talk about stuff that they've never put to play, that they don't really know it works, and it just it's conversation around a bench.
It's anecdotal. You're right.
But really, what it comes down to is if someone wants to tell me XYZ and they want to question what I'm doing, that's your prerogative. But my question is, why are you so worried about what I'm doing? What I'm doing is working. Why are you ever telling me what I'm doing doesn't work? Why aren't you off trying to figure yourself out? Or, I'm happy to answer questions, but telling me what I'm doing doesn't work is kind of silly. Take a look.
Yeah. Well, for sure. 100%. What do you say to people who might suggest that there's, and I guess I have to go here with you because that's just part of our industry and what we talk about, but people might say there's performance enhancing involved with this whole situation. What do you say to that conversation?
Yeah. I'll go back to one of my buddies. He's got the best mic over here. Everybody knows, anyway. He will say 500 covers of magazines anyway. If you don't know him, look him up. He's older than I am, 54 years old, but this is what he says. I love it. He says, I'll buy it for you. You still couldn't do what I did. So when it comes down to it, the way to look at it, performance enhancement is like icing on a cake. If you don't have a cake, you got a mouthful of icing. Who likes a mouthful of icing? So, when it comes down to it, here's the deal. Enhancements don't build your habits. Enhancements don't execute your habit. Enhancements don't put you to bed at 8:00 at night. Enhancements don't tell your friends no when they want to go drinking. Enhancements don't do any of the things needed that a person needs to learn to do before an enhancement will even help.
Well said. Well said, because doesn't matter what you want to put in your body if you're not sleeping. And if you're not doing the work, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, does it?
And the people that are throwing turds about enhancements, these are the ones that have yet to put in the work.
There's no
because they'll say they'll point that finger like, oh, it's because of this. Well, clearly they haven't tried to do anything because they're clueless as to how the whole drill works.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think people that want to throw poo-poo, as you said, onto it all, perhaps have a sense of naivety about the whole thing, where the world's full of enhancements, right?
Yeah.
The world fights for edges everywhere, but you still got to put the work in before you can get the edge, right? So and there's no judgment. I think that it's not 1980. It's not 1990, it's 2024. We've learned so much over 50, 60 years of science and so forth. And it's, I think it's interesting to watch how the industry, how the bodybuilding industry has progressed to where it is today, to see what these men and women are doing today, enhanced or not enhanced. It's fascinating to me, frankly.
Well, then now that's TRT or hormone replacement therapy has become so popular. There's a huge percentage of the population now that are running around that are using PED. You don't see a huge percentage of the population in really good shape. Well, that should kind of start to tell people that, okay, hey, there's a little more to this than just enhancements.
John, a father of 3 kids.
Yes.
Yes. How old are your kids?
Oh, man. So I've got 31.
Okay.
31. I've got 22 in May. She's going to turn here pretty quick. And then I've got 20.
Are you grandpa yet?
I am. I've got a 4-year-old grandson.
Oh,
Yes.
fantastic. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
share with me and share with Nation, John's journey. You took a journey that would perhaps be considered non-traditional by many, right? You're a wrestler, you're a bodybuilder, and you're a strongman.
Yep.
And you have 3 kids and a grandchild. Then you look at dad and grandpa looks a little different than everybody else.
Yep. 100%. And well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Is that, and I'm not trying to sound like an ass when I say this, but I had never wanted to be normal, if you will. I didn't want to fit into what, not as a kid, I wanted to fit in because that's all you want as a kid, just to fit in. But I didn't want to drive to work every day. I didn't want what society tells us we're supposed to do. And so that's what I've kind of taught my kids is that I want you to have choices. And this is something I told them from the time they were young. You need to choose your life because if you don't choose your life, life will choose you. Now your choices are open, and once life picked you. And so from the standpoint of, I taught them the daily rhythms, the daily habits. I mean, they didn't like it, but there was a period of life where I got them up before school and I took them on a short run because I needed them to get up and it was all strategically placed because it was at the time where social pressure started really adding up. So I needed them to show up to school in a really solid frame of mind. So if I got their endorphins going, got them a little dopamine, got them a little, oxytocin and serotonin, they're going to have a much better chance at coping with the challenges at school. So as much as they hated me, I woke them up and I took them on a short trot around the neighborhood before I took them to school. And so, but that's just one of many series of different habits that I taught them. And now they separate themselves from the masses so quick because it's not, it's the way they live their lives. And it goes back to that daily thing. You want to change the direction of your life. You got to change how you live your day-to-day life. And it's that simple, And so as a parent, I just wanted to parenting kind of like, I was like, when there's no handbook. I was scared to death, I just went into it thinking, okay, when it's all over, I would rather them know or look back and think, you know what, if anything, he tried too hard, he did too much. I was not going to allow them to come back to me and say, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And so basically it was making a decision, committing all the way to fatherhood. And when you commit to something all the way, it's pretty crazy how quickly you pick up on how it works and the do's and the don'ts versus when you're 1 foot in and 1 foot out, you're never really gathering the data. It's just like when it comes to training and nutrition. It's like you have to constantly gather the data that you're getting from your performance and the way you feel. And that data, you're tweaking things, just little tiny changes, sometimes on a daily basis. And when you apply that method to parenting, you don't make the same mistakes over and over and over. And that's the biggest problem. I see it all the time with like, I had friends with kids, like you wonder why they don't listen to you is because you tell them no. And if they put up a stink, you give in. You say, no, you got to go to the mat because then they know no means no. But you'd be surprised how many parents will make that same mistake. They'll say no. And then the kid will wiggle a little bit, cause a stink. They give in. So the kid knows no just means try again. And they do. And the parent gives in. And that mistake is repeated for like huge chunks of childhood. And a parent wonders why they don't have a good relationship with their kid.
How would you say you have evolved as a father, grandfather, fatherly figure? 52 now. You have a 4-year-old grandchild. You're of the same era I am from. I have an 8-year-old bonus daughter. I call her my daughter. I have a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old. And I know I have evolved and changed as I have as a parent in the way that society has, as I've matured as a human. How have you, John? done the same thing? Or is it, no, Keith, I'm the same way I was 30 years ago and I'm the same way today?
No, that's a great, that's really, really good question, because I went through the first chunk of parenting, because as my youngest now is 20.
Yeah.
I'm really in that major evolution right now. So it's just great that we're talking about this, because it started off with the first one, a decade. But I started off my parenthood journey being really kind of hanging my hat on being a disciplinarian. Not like I was being an ass, but saying this is the way it works and we're going to stick to it. But I stick to my rules too. It's not like I'm saying, hey, go to bed at 7 o'clock. My bedtime's 8 o'clock. I'm going to go to bed at my bedtime too. So I was the disciplinarian. I taught the discipline. I taught the habits. And I had to tell them in many cases, look, unfortunately, I have to be your dad first. I can be your friend second. And now that they're in this age now where they're out of the house, they're over 18, they're becoming independent. Now it's starting to toggle. I'm becoming more of a friend first, and I'm a dad when they ask for dad. When they come to me for advice, I can't just keep parenting them in their early adult life, because that was my job years ago, and they're doing really well. So for me to do that now would be it would really tarnish all the work that I did, because they're all doing well. So my evolution has been, and it's hard for me because I've spent so many years in that role as a father. Now I'm totally basically evolving out of the father discipline role, because there's nothing left for me to discipline. But I still find myself wanting to do that just because it's in my nature. I did it for so long.
Well, and Jon, as a father, let's be frank here. Like, as a father, I can only think you were maybe almost like a superhero to your kids. Because you weren't, because let me just explain. You didn't carry the lunchbox to work. You didn't get on the old CHP and drive down the highway to work. You either beat people up, you either got on stage, or you lifted heavy things. And to children looking at dad, that's got to be one of those, whoa, because it wasn't what you said, it was what you were doing. Which was having the influence on them, right? Because you couldn't go pick up a car without putting all the work in. Very different how your kids were raised, watching how dad was and who dad is. You follow what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it was, for them, it went through phases, early on, because I was always, show and tell, and I was always coming to their school for something. You know what I mean? And I was, I would often do talks to the, like inspirational, motivational talks to the student body. And, like one year that we put on this skit where I think it was elementary school, where the principal, who's the big bad wolf, where I came in and we did a little skit where I won't say beat him up because it's not good, but I smashed a pie in his face and did shit like that. So the kids were like,
you played the role, right? You played the role.
Yeah. I broke the rules. You know what I mean? And so, but then it went into a phase where they loved that. But then it went into a phase where they wanted to just be, as they were wanting more to fit in. Yeah. They were like, they didn't want me to come to school. Yeah. So it kind of went both. And I kind of knew that was coming because, I remember there's that when I was a kid, it was like, God, all of a sudden your parents, and I thought, well, maybe that won't happen to me. But if it does, I remember it myself. So they were kind of like, let's ease up on accepting these invitations to come do stuff at school, And so it was, but when it came down to it, I really did, because when it comes down, I've told them over and over, you want me to be proud of you. Yeah. Well, I want you to be proud of me too. Yes. It's a two-way street.
Yes. It's funny. I'm really glad you said that. I was driving with my kids out to Easter yesterday, Jon, and I looked at them both. I said, your dad's on this quest to become the world's biggest talk show host. I said, I'm not going to embarrass you kids. I said, Piper, I got a daughter. I said, I probably will embarrass you, but I'm not going to embarrass you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to do fun things, but I'm not going to have you be embarrassed about your father, right? Yeah. So, because I can only imagine you go from being like the show and tell kid, I'm sort of the show and tell prop, to, oh man, you got your teenage daughter. You got a daughter, right?
Yeah, every one of them.
Oh, they're all daughters. Oh,
they're all. Yeah.
It's your teenage daughter's going, oh man, there's dad standing up on stage again, half naked. And, or so I can only imagine how you went from being the prop to kind of like, oh, dad, really?
When that's what happened. I think a lot of it too is that they had such a strong sense of our relationship was really strong, and they went from like their friends like being so intrigued all of a sudden into that place where now all a friend's got to do is talk smack about me to get under their skin. And it was like,
Right.
they were like, you know, because and then they're just ingrained to defend me. And I'm like, look, you don't have to say, daddy's going to be fine. You know, I mean, I'll be okay. But you know, it was just ingrained in them. I couldn't help myself but to defend them. They couldn't help themselves but to defend me.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where it, you know, that's kind of where it went. It went through that the first phase into the second phase, but then college came later in high school. It kind of flip-flopped back. But college came. Oh man, now it's like, you know, next thing you know, I'm getting invited to all of the sorority and the,
because now the adult kids are like, oh yeah, dad's cool again, right?
Yeah. And so we went through those phases, but you know, it's when it comes down to it, parent just wants to serve his child the best way he or she can. And when it came down to them existing in those tough social spots, I was happy to do whatever they felt was going to be best for them. So I wasn't thinking about myself. You know, a lot of times I have friends say, oh, does that bother you? No, I'm worried about them. I mean, I remember I had the same problem. So I remember my middle daughter came home from school. God, almost makes me want to cry telling the story. But she came home and she said, Daddy, nobody will eat lunch.
Oh man.
I went through the same thing. So because I went through the same thing, I understood. And just looking at her saying that to me was just, it was like just broke my heart, you know? And so I was never worried about me. I was worried, what can I do to assist, you know? And that whole thing of I remember the same thing. I remember as a kid, I would go and I would take my lunch and I would sit down at a table with kids and I would sit down there fucking, you know, it's like, oh, God damn it. But I could deal with that shit myself, but to hear my daughter, oh man, it's my daughter. If it was a son, you know, he would be okay. Lick your wounds, dude. Try again tomorrow. Yeah. But my daughter, you know, it's like, you know, and I think that's another thing too. I remember feeling like when I was going to be a father, you know what? I feel like I'm going to be a better dad to a female, to a little girl. And so God gave me all little girls. And you see him, I'm a big, strong dude, but when it comes down to it, I have zero issue with showing emotion, you know, and, you know, I'm not afraid to cry. It's not like I'm crying because I'm crying because it's a show of emotion. Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Before I even met you, I knew that about you. And just, I want to be respectful of your time. Every now and then, awesome conversations go into overtime here in the lab, and I'm suspecting you and I are on our way to overtime. What kind of time do you have in terms of a hard stop?
That's a good question. I'll be on. We can go another 30 minutes, but I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to have to take a piss somewhere in that 30 minutes because I drink so much water. So.
Yes. So we'll either go to break or we'll be done before you got to go for a piss. Either or.
Perfect. There we go.
This is fantastic. I'm telling you, and I got to tell you, I appreciate the vulnerability. I really do.
Oh, brother, I'm telling you right now, you know, because when it comes down to it, the way I see it is, you know, with what I've done with my life, if I can't help others with my experiences, I am not serving the world. And one of the things that I really, really want males to understand, I mean, I get it, you know, we're all supposed to be big and tough and blah, blah, but somehow, some way, society made it like showing emotion was weak. Showing emotion is actually strong because you have to have the balls to deal with the people that don't understand. Now, I'm not talking about sitting here. I'm not talking about, you know, my favorite show's not on TV. I'm going to have a good cry, you know. I'm talking about stuff that matters. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And, you know, when it comes to my kids, when it comes to my family, when it comes to my wife, you know, I mean, I can remember watching them sing, and they got into this, they were singing actually at, Six Flags, and, you know, because they were on this kind of this choir that was doing really well. And they both got little solo spots. And I can remember them stepping up, started singing. I was just like, this is like right now. I mean, the smile is so big and I can feel the chin going. It's like, I love it. That's emotion too. Yeah. But here's the thing. We run off of, you know, when, I mean, I can like part of the things that, you know, when I am working hard for something and I can close my eyes and I can envision what it's going to feel like to walk out. When I was trying to get where I wanted my wrestling career, I would close my eyes and I would envision what it would be like walking out in front of 50,000 people. Yeah. And that emotion that I would feel, I want that again. I'm going to chase that emotion, you know? And so we live off emotions, you know, the times that I have, you know, the times that I shed a tear over something that's really, really happy or the time that I shed a tear because I'm sitting next to my little girl because she's crying because she can't find someone to eat lunch with, you know, and I sit next to her and she feels me with her. This is what life is about.
Yeah.
Human being will remember situations associated with emotion with more clarity and detail than any other parts.
You know what? I had a manager coach here in the lab a couple weeks ago, John, and he says to me, I said, how do you know when somebody has like the it factor, like when you meet somebody for the first time? He says, Keith, when somebody changes somebody else's breath work. I was like, oh, he's like, you don't even know it. He goes, think about watching a horror movie or a drama and all of a sudden you subtly don't even know your breath changes. Right.
Yeah.
I'll look at you, like you will make somebody's breath change just on your appearance. And then if you start crying, and this is a compliment, my friend.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I don't take that the wrong way. Don't worry about me, brother.
He's a big, intimidating fellow. Now he's crying. You're changing breath work. You're having an impact, right? Yeah. I got a couple comments here from Business Athlete Nation. So Tom, who's joining us, my family member Tom, John from Kenya. If you ever want to go to Kenya and do a safari, dude, I'll hook you up with the best guide on the planet. Spent the week with the guy last week. His name Tom. He's a dad to a daughter. He's loving our conversation right now, which segues to this one. Noah Bradford. How did it go meeting your daughter's first boyfriends?
Well, really what I wanted to make sure, the last thing I wanted to do was to put my daughter in a position where she felt like that she was going to bring a boy home and I was going to scare him or make things uncomfortable, because I needed to see who she was going to hang out with. Because if she was, let's just say she had connected with boys that were not good for her values, she wouldn't have been able to notice, and I would have. I was hoping that wouldn't happen, but if it did happen, I had to be ready to take some sort of action. And so basically, I just was really, really open with them about how I was going to be very conscious about the fact that they may be intimidated, and they talked to the boys before they brought them over to meet me. And so it was actually very different than what people would think, because, most people think, oh, I bet you had a great, easy keeping the boys away. That was the last thing I wanted. I needed to see who these boys were.
Yeah. Yes. Right.
It's like, God damn, when people say that, I can tell if they're joking or I can tell if they're serious. I'm like thinking to myself, when someone's serious, I'm thinking, man, you are missing the boat.
Yeah.
I don't want to be blind to what they're doing. I need to know what they're doing. And if they're doing what's okay for their age, I'll let them keep doing it. If they're not, I got to somehow tweak some things to alter the course of the future.
Man, John, talk about, so you said you're married. Talk about the power of having that support person with you during your journey. Again, a non-traditional journey. So I'm going to assume your wife's been with you since day one?
Yeah, we've been together for 20 years. We're actually a mixed family. So we have, which is another thing too, which is really common. Yeah, really common. And so, and when it comes down to it, these are my daughter.
Yes.
Do two of them have different fathers? Yes, but they're DNA dads. It's like there's the person who makes the baby and there's the person who raises the baby. Well, making the baby, that's the easy part. That's actually the fun part. The raising the baby, that's the challenging part. But anyway, going back to my wife. Yeah. I mean, when it comes down to it, if I didn't have her support, it just wouldn't have worked. It would have, there's no possibility I could have traveled the way that I did. There's just too many, it's a team effort. And, because we really focused on our roles, like, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is what you're doing. We divided and conquered, we were a really good team. And because of that, because we, and keep in mind, there was plenty of difficult times in our journey, now we live a life that is, we're basically living our dreams. I mean, we travel a lot. We do what we want to. I guess that's really what it comes down to is we have choices. We can choose to do what we want when we want, and we do it. And we're happy, and our kids are happy. And it's I guess the lesson to this whole thing would be, just because something is difficult and just because society says that it's not going to work, it doesn't mean that that's the case. When you actually go the difficult path and you make it work, most cases, it's going to get you a lot more than what society is going to offer.
Jon Andersen, you know, as much as I want to continue talking with you about wrestling and bodybuilding, I believe you need to come back for that part of our conversation, because the way that we've wrapped up this hour on belief and on, you know, where we started and where we've ended, and we've woven in, you know, the power of your children, the power of your wife, and that support network, and your emphasis on just that self-belief. I would love to have you back, not only to talk about your bodybuilding career, your wrestling career, talk more about your business.
Yeah. I mean, brother, just so you know, I have yet to do a podcast where I've only been on once. So this is pretty common.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay, well, there you go. Okay, well, awesome. Well, hold on a second. I want to hold on, Mr. Andersen. So first of all, we're not a podcast. We're a show.
Forgive me. I've yet to be on a show because what happened to us right here is really what happens to pretty much when most people meet me, is that there's so much more than what they see that don't really get to what thought we were going to talk about.
Well, and I knew, and I suspected that, but I also, you know, wanted to be respectful of everybody's time and so forth. Yeah. But if you will, love to have you back again, maybe again. I don't want to just be treated like everybody else, though. So maybe I got to have you back. So has anybody had you on 3 times or 4 times?
Well, I guess that comes down to how deep and inquisitive your questions are, my brother. So if you want to be, I mean, listen, it's, what is it? One of these shows comes down to amazing conversation, and, you know, amazing conversations come down to how good are the questions. So, and that comes right down to your bro. That goes right for you, my brother. So you keep asking amazing questions. We could do 5 of these.
So are you saying that I've done okay so far, Jon Andersen?
I think you've done great, my brother. We haven't really talked about anything that most people thought we were going to talk about.
No, I know. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So, I'm okay with that. I thought this was a great conversation. I know you got to go for a piss. And the thing is, though, is that if I just open the doors on this, and here's the great way to hang on for the next episode. If I'm just about to open the doors to walking out to a stadium of 50,000 people and wrestling in front of 50,000 people, like, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about standing in front of a stage of thousands of people, you know, in your skivvies doing bodybuilding contests. Like, you know, because I've talked to guys, I've been around that sport for a long time, but I want to talk to a pro who's done
it. Brother, we've got early life, because my early life is really what sets this whole thing.
Yeah.
I touched on a little bit. We got early life. We've got obviously the 3 different careers.
Yes.
We've got business. We've got entrepreneurship.
Yes.
We've got, there's so much. You're easily another show or 2.
At least another show. And I might even have to bring a co-host who's also a bodybuilder who knew you were on today. And it's like, oh, I can't make it today. I'm like, well, maybe we'll have to have him back for you. So
let's go.
Awesome. Jon Andersen, you have been spectacular today, man. I'm really grateful for your time. If you can just hang tight for a second, I'm going to put you in the green room. I'll say goodbye to the audience and I'll walk you out so you can head for that piss.
You got it. Look forward to next time, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. You and me both. So hang tight. We're going to do this. I'm going to do this up here. Put some tunes back on there. Hey, guys, I hope you enjoyed that chat as much as I did. I know it was absolutely exceptional, and it was what I was hoping we were going to have to happen today. Although, and again, I knew we only had an hour, and I had all these things in my head, and we didn't get to anywhere else we wanted to get to, but that's okay. Jon Andersen's coming back. Boom. I'm going to have him back. Maybe even have him back a few times. If you're just tuning in late and you didn't hear the start of the show, go back to the beginning. Interesting fellow. Not what you think. Don't judge a book by its cover. All right, so I'm going to get out of here. Going to walk Jon out of the lab. He's got to go to the loo. To all my friends over in the UK, you know the loo. We'll see you guys tomorrow mornings in the lab. Myself, Nicole, Bernard, mornings in the lab. And then tomorrow again, live in the lab with Keith Bilous. Noon Central Time, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 Eastern. We go live, conversations, etc., etc. We'll see you guys tomorrow on my quest to create the world's greatest talk show by becoming the world's greatest talk show host here on LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and of course, Instagram. We'll see you guys tomorrow. I am out of here.